So a year or two ago, I addressed an article about what causes college kids to deconvert. The article said it used my research. It really didn't, and so I ended up debunking some of it. Today I'd like to talk about why I think college kids really do deconvert. Here, on Switching Sides. So you're a Christian, and you're sending your Christian kids off to college. Better be careful. They might just walk away from the faith, right? That's certainly a trope that's developed over the years, but it isn't exactly wrong. Why is that? It's not because the devil is roaming around the college campus looking for innocent Christian kids to tempt. There are some much more reasonable explanations for it. In the last several years, a team of researchers from Poland have been very busy looking into deconversion in adolescents, and they've come up with some pretty interesting findings. Among their findings is that teenagers who have close relationships with their family and peers tend not to leave their religion. Now try to remember going off to college and away from your high school girlfriend. You put each other's graduation ring around your necks, promise to keep in constant contact, make plans to spend each break and holiday together, and leave with the certainty that you can make this long-distance relationship work. Remember how that turned out? It's the same thing with going off to college and your religion. The teen leaves the church youth group and family behind, and will find new groups of friends to connect with. That buffer that existed to keep their teen from exiting the church is no longer there. And while the teen might be able to find new Christian peers and connections, the connection to the family won't ever be that close again. But there's more. You see, teenagers and young adults are exploring their identities and are naturally drawn to questions and challenge the values and authority they were brought up with. If a teenager is challenging authority, their friends tend to support and encourage that behavior. So there is actually incentive for a young person to challenge religious values under the right peer group. But Christian parents have an escape hatch, right? They can send their kids to a Christian college. That'll keep them from deconverting, right? Actually, no. There's some unique features of Christian colleges that can contribute to deconversion as well. Researcher J.M. Nagel noted that even in Christian college, when a student begins to encounter a variety of new viewpoints and ideas, the idea that my way is the only way begins to seem a little uncomfortable. And considering that Christianity is a religion which generally tends to adopt an exclusivist approach, Christianity is the only way, Christianity becomes uncomfortable. But another thing about religious universities that is their emphasis on truth-seeking over submission to authority. Meaning that if an authoritative source, say your pastor or even the Bible, seems to be an obstacle to truth, the student is now more likely to favor the truth over the authority source. A classic example would be creationism. Creationism is usually embraced by way of authority, again, the Bible or Christian leaders. Then it is evidence. Now, that's not to say that creationists don't provide evidence and arguments for their ideas, but that they generally don't arrive at their ideas by way of evidence. Rather, they do it by way of authority. Once truth-seeking is favored over authority, the person isn't going to be persuaded by say-so, and is going to want to be convinced. However, there is one fascinating thing about how people change after moving to college, which has been buried in the textbooks for years, but which hasn't been explored in any of the deconversion literature that I've seen. Lawrence Kohlberg was a 20th century psychologist, most famous for his research into the stages of moral development. Basically, Kohlberg wanted to know how a 2-year-old determined right and wrong, and how that was different from a 22-year-old. He discovered that humans went through a variety of stages of moral development. These stages started with a basic wrong is whatever gets my hand slapped. Reaching for a cookie when mom is around is wrong, but if she's not looking, it's okay. The next stage is right and wrong are whatever get me what I want. It's a step up from the first stage, but it incorporates a principle of fairness. If I want another cookie and mommy doesn't let me have it, that's not fair. Similarly, if I don't want to do chores and mommy makes me, that's not fair. The stages go on like that. By the time the teenager graduates high school, he or she is usually at stage 5. In this stage, right and wrong are basically determined by whatever everyone agrees on. If we can all agree that it's right for criminals to go to jail, then that's good, despite what the criminal may believe. It's a social contract theory, wherein the governed agree to be governed, and the institution agrees to be held accountable to the people. So this is where the teenager is when he goes off to college. But then Kohlberg noticed something shocking. After the student goes to college, this teenager becomes a moral relativist again. The teenager reverts to something similar to stage 2, where good is whatever gets people what they want. If I'm not getting good grades and I want good grades, that's not fair. Although, at this point, the college student will include others into this principle of fairness, meaning everyone should get what they think is fair. So how does this relate to deconversion? Very simple. The social contract stage leaned heavily on institutions of authority, the primary ones being government and church. When the teenager goes off to college and becomes a moral relativist, the authorities holding the social contract start to be challenged. So there are a lot of reasons that people tend to walk away from religion after they go to college. The Christian narrative is that they are somehow corrupted. The non-Christian narrative is that education sort of raises a person above all that religious mumbo-jumbo. Both could be true depending on how you interpret the data, but these behaviors are well explored and explained by psychology. This has been Switching Sides.